cologne for the video?
Cologne?
Yes.
What the?
Oh, man. Alright, ready? In 3, 2.
Morning, everyone. This is National Master Ruben Ondangan lecturing you, intermediate class LHS Lab. This morning, I would like to give a continuation on our lecture last week about the power of an outpost. And with that game against National Master Craig Anderson, I show to the class how a knight should be posted well on the pip rank and create so much trouble for the enemy. Now, with regards to outposts, we don't simply talk about knights. But on the game that I will show you this morning, it will also be beneficial if you could use other pieces. Here, in this example, is the power of the bishop as an outpost. So this game was against National PD Master, woman PD Master Simone Liao. And it was played here in the LA Master. Back in the days, we have what we called every Saturday LA Masters, where all the strong players gathered here. This was played in 2011, 6 years ago. And the game went, I was white, e4, e6. Now, woman PD Master Simone Liao was known for her love for the French defense. And a lot of them are from the, I believe, American Chess Academy class. Knight f3 was played. I will be playing the two knights variation against the French defense. Like what I mentioned before, if you study books on openings, don't try to study the first three chapters. Try to use the last chapter of the book, because most likely your opponent did not study it. Was not able to get there, you know. So d5, and so here knight c3. You will find this variation under the heading odds and ends in a chess book about French defense. So, but you see, it's about development. We are now 2 against 0 for black, right? The exchange of the center is possibility here. Still, we have advantage in pores. Chess is a battle of time, pores, and space. Again, if he plays d4, he chases the knight goes to e2, probably find itself on knight g3 and create a different type of scenario. The French players, most of them, love to keep this, what we call semi-triangle, right? e6 and d5. And so we will see here a different type of variation. The most common one, a main line knight f6, develop a piece, catch up in development. And there is now a real threat on our e4 square. The move I played was e5, gain tempo. Now the battle starts shaping into a close type, strategical type of chess. And so knight fd7 was played. Okay, here, one of the main ideas of black here is to play c5, knight c6, queen b6, and start pressuring the queen side of white. And so here our slight advantage, if there is any at all, is our advantage in development. And now we have an advantage in what we call space. Now, this class are elements of positional advantages. They are considered temporary. They're not permanent. When you want permanent advantage, you need to win material. You need to be attacking the king in the form of initiative, okay? But these are temporary. In other words, if they are temporary, your opponent can catch up. And so you need to strike while the iron is hot. So d4 was played. And after c5, the most common move here for white is bishop f4. And there was a book, about a repertoire about that, how to play that line. But I believe the more active bishop g5, which is probably unknown. And now we are entering the realm of what we call the Jackal attack. This is known as the Jackal attack in chess literature. We watched that movie, The Jackal, that was based on this. This game, this analysis or this opening was based on that movie. Okay, bishop g5. Now, a lot of players can go wrong here. For example, bishop e7 is already a mistake. Knight, bishop takes, queen takes, and then knight b5. You see the outpost on d6 really going to hurt black here, correct? So you see that a very obvious move is actually a mistake.
So how is it a mistake, Ruben?
Okay, let's see. Bishop e7. One is bishop takes. Queen takes. Let's show it clearly in the variation. After knight b5, we have a double threat of knight c7 check and knight d6 check. In both cases, it's just a sorry situation position for black. I mean, it's probably not worth continuing this game. It's just painful to look at, right? And once the knight arrives here, and there's another knight coming here later on, there's a lot of problem in the position. So bishop e7 seems obvious, but actually it's a bad move. Okay, so bishop g5 is a tempo gaining move. Unfortunately, when one of your piece leaves your original square, sometimes it leaves something behind, and this in the form of the b2 pawn. The b2 pawn becomes suddenly a target, and so queen b6 was the correct move. Candidate master Indra Lahiri played queen a5 against me. Queen b6 was the most direct threat. The attack on d4 is there, and now added the bonus on the attack on b2. Now, if you're not familiar with this type of line, it seems like it's more problematic for white than it is with black. But, you know, fear not, do not be afraid in this position. All you have to do is you are up in development, continue to develop. Here, I probably violated one of the principles of opening play. Do not capture to the detriment of your own position or allowing your opponent to develop or capture with development. See, I took the pawn. On here, he captures with the bishop. So, in other words, I helped the enemy to develop his own force and created an actual threat battery on f2. Now, the attack on b2 is still lurking in the background. So there's several problems suddenly for white, and according to the computer, this is already good for black. Can you believe that?
Yes, I believe that.
The computer already evaluated this as negative 6 or 5. That's about half pawn advantage for black in this position. Now, if you remember the game I showed, it was in YouTube video. The game against National Master Craig Clawwitter is still in the same position. Right here, I played Queen D2. National Master Craig Clawwitter captured the pawn, and after Queen takes. Let me show that game quick. But if you want to go to the detail of that game, I suggest that you go to the YouTube video. It was loaded there under the Jackal attack. It was one of the most popular video we had under Los Angeles Chess Club. So bishop takes f2 was played by National Master Craig Clawwitter, former Southern California junior champ, and he captured here. And now we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. There's the attack on the knight and the rook, and become a problem of which one to save and how to survive, actually, survival mode. Now, if you panic so easily in a game of chess, this is probably not the sport for you. I mean, this is not for the faint of heart. It's just hair racing, troublesome, bothersome. It's a lot of problems showed up. And I thought we're supposed to be the one giving the problem, not us receiving them. Correct? And so here, it becomes very problematic. However, there is what we call the Alakin move here. The correct piece to save is not the rook, but it's the knight, because it's already developed. The rook is undeveloped, leave it to its own demise, right? So king d2, after queen takes, real quick, this is what happened in the game. Bishop, boom, b5, an attack on the queen, a pin on the king, and after the forced capture, basically force, what we did is sacrifice 2 rooks. And somebody said, you might as well resign. No, but after this queen c5, Craig Clawwitter turned red and wonder what he just missed, because there is a very serious threat of mate on e7. The power of the Jackal attack is not visible. It's actually veiled for a long time until your opponent notices it. I've probably been duped into a very bad variation. 2 rooks, okay? So the continuation of the game, go to our YouTube page. Let us go back to the game against Simon Liao. All right. Any questions so far? Good. None. That's what we need. No questions. Okay, queen. Everybody following? The Jackal attack is this line, and the title of this morning's lecture is continuation of the power of the outpost. When last week we talked about the outpost of a bishop, of a knight, this morning we will show you an outpost where the bishop will control the same square I've shown last week. So instead of after queen d2, she played not bishop takes f2 like Craig Clowitter, but she played the developing move knight c6. And what happened here is there's still an attack on b2.
Wait, excuse me. Did you say that earlier before that queen was played on a5 instead of b4? I mean b6?
Now the a5 was played by candidate master Indra Lahiri. This is the actual game against speedy master Simon Liao. And here, instead of bishop takes f2, knight c6 was played by her. And there are two ways to continue this game. Jettison this pawn on f2, give it up. Alright? By castling queenside, that's one. Three lines, I should say. The other is attack the queen and the bishop battery, forcing the bishop takes f2, queen takes f2, queen b4 check, queen takes a4, and we have some sort of slight advantage for black in the form of one pawn, but white is very active. That's second scenario. The third scenario is what I played in the game, and that is to continue and complete my development. Bishop b5, block the pawn attack on b2, introducing the idea of kingside castling, centralizing the forces. You see now, white's forces are a picture of harmony and coordination. Very important in chess. Okay, if your pieces are in chaotic mode, then forget it. You're playing abstract chess, just like Picasso as a painter. So here, what we have is an introduction to a battle that will continue to rage on the board. The bishop b5 create a pin that prevents the attack on e5. Okay, because of the pins. So we have here pins, counter pins, attack and counter attack, battle of chess idea, restriction of your opponent's forces, blockade, and then later on we'll find how it will be destroyed. Okay, so bishop b5, any question? My two pass. Okay, no question. Everybody's quiet this morning. Are you guys okay? Okay, after bishop b5, what we have here, she played bishop b4, the pin. Now, this type of moves, a master will find it strange if your player moves the pieces twice or again and moving them from one good position to another. It gives us the idea that our opponent is playing without a plan. So it gives us an immediate clue that, okay, my opponent is not sure what he or she should do and what is she trying to achieve in the position. So by moving that bishop away from c5 and placing it on b4, there is a different idea. There is a threat now of queen takes b5. Remember, threats, captures, right? Threats, captures, and exchanges, and pins. These are the rule of the trade, the tool of the trade. And so there is an idea. However, it becomes suspicious because she moved the same piece twice. So what should we play here? If you are white in this position, after bishop b4, what is the correct continuation? Anyone? Should we allow queen takes b5? Can we play a4? These are the moves. Can we castle? Nope.
a4.
a4 is playable. a3 is bad because a bishop takes c3, and then the bishop drops. Okay, here. Now, if you are paying attention to our lecture last week, we arrived in an almost similar pawn structure. Now, in pawn structured chess, very important for us to, when you know this certain pawn structures, You just try to achieve that type of pawn structure, and you know already the inherent idea in such position. What I'm saying is that in certain position, there is what we call an idea or a certain inherent idea that needs to be achieved or played, and it will give you some sort of pull in the position. Here, the correct move is bishop takes c6. And after the capture b takes c6, we arrive similarly to the Craig Anderson game from last week with regards to this pawn structure. Now, what does it tells us? With this type of structure, it became a full triangle. Earlier, it was half. Okay? Now, the main idea here in this type of situation, you just simply have to remove the dark square bishop and leave your opponent with the light square bishop because his pawns are in the light square. Anybody understand that? It's kind of advanced, right? In pawn structure chess, you leave your opponent with a bad piece because of the bad color complex of the remaining pawns. Okay? So here, our target, our main objective in the game is to get rid of this bishop at all costs. And we will make his remaining bishop a sorry piece SOB. Just kidding. So here, so after b takes c6 class, that is our main objective. Try to get rid of this bishop. Okay, how did white continue in this game? Any suggestion? Okay, very good. Queen after castle first, I believe. Castle is much more required or beneficial to white's position. Never neglect development. Never neglect.
The d4 now?
D4 is not possible because there's two that are guarding the square.
Two. I see.
Yeah. Maybe we should make
Even though
the.
that's a pin,
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
we can make the pieces larger or
Yeah,
bigger.
okay, I see.
so that is not yet possible. Now she can prepare it, for example, by c5. Unfortunately, that will be in our favor because, for example, c5. Now we have a3, and you find that the bishop needs to probably get rid or retreat. And in both cases, we are in a much more better position here. So she still wants to maintain this triangle to bolster the center. French player like this type of position very well because they will operate on the B file actually. That's where they operate if you play the French. So here, after castle, instead, she add pressure on the pin. This is what she had. She said, I'm going to work with what I have currently in the position. She introduced a very strong move, knight c5, with the idea of both knight a4 and knight e4, in which case, we will have another type of problem. This time, on the attack of c3, the pin is mightier than the sword.
That's very tough.
It's very tough position here, and even the computer said, I think you should resign here, right? Strategically dangerous, knight a4, she started walking around, enjoying her position, you know, like most players do when they feel that they are doing well in the position, they start walking around, standing up, and leaving you at the...
Rook a1, so you can sack the exchange if she comes to e4, right?
Now, a threat is really a threat, and you have to evaluate how serious the threat is, right? Now we play your move, bishop e3. The idea of the pin was, as a response, we create our own pin, our counter pin. Okay, so remember this type of moves and idea in an actual chess game. Don't just sit down and wait for the axe to fall on your head. You have to do something, okay? So here we actually introduce an idea of queen d4, a3, and then that knight will be left in pre. So here after bishop e3, the pin. A good rule of thumb, when you are under pin, you have to step out of the pin. Very good move, actually. I should admire this player for playing one strong move after another. In an actual chess tournament game, if you are able to play 3 strong moves in succession, most likely your opponent will just crumble. That's just it needs. 3 strong moves in succession. Okay, not three, not one mistake, and the next is blunder, and the next is resign. Don't do that.
To me, it looks strong a little bit at first impression.
Huh?
But you just take the knight and then you have a3, which stops the problem.
After bishop takes knight, it's probably a little bit too early. Because either queen takes or bishop takes, our objective in the game is to get rid of this bishop. And how on earth this bishop is still living? We did not achieve our plan. We have a plan. The plan is to get rid of this bishop. And so here is how it should be played. If that is the plan, you have, remember last week, you have to stick with the plan, right? And if you don't achieve that plan, then you will start in square one again. And again, you will produce a different kind of plan. And you will find your life just continuously making plans, and not actually fulfilling any of them. Am I right? So here, after queen a5, what did she play?
Bishop d4.
Bishop d4 is playable. However, it doesn't stop the idea of knight e4, and really here it's just painful to look at. For example, queen d3, there is a barbecue going on in town.
God.
This just painful to the eyes.
It's tough.
This is tough position, right? And it's just one bad move after another. Now, I'll share you a Russian idea in an actual game of chess. If a Russian player Russian school of thought, Russian player miss an idea, one idea, immediately he was told by the coach to offer draw immediately. Because when you miss an idea, most likely your next move is a mistake, and after the mistake is a blunder. So it's always a good idea to offer a draw when you think that you miss the thread of the game. Okay, this is known. Every Russian schoolboy knows this. I'm telling you now. Learn something. They don't normally offer draw, but when they did, I know what you're up to. You're in trouble, huh? So here, instead of bishop d4, the correct move here is, if she step out of the pin, two can dance the tango. Let's also step out of the pin. Okay? It's the correct piece is the queen, not the bishop on d4. We step out of the pin. We prevented knight e4 and knight a4. We introduce a3. Okay, that is the threat. So after queen d4 here, bishop takes c3 was played. What should you play? Anybody, evaluate the position real quick. 3 seconds.
Queen c3.
Queen c3 will give us a strategically lost position, because after queen takes c3, queen takes, the opponent have knight e4, a knight that occupies the center part of the board. It becomes a beast of burden. It attacks c3. The pawn start rolling, and this is very bad position for white strategically. Okay. Instead, you're right. The correct capture the correct capture here, class, is not queen takes c3, but queen takes c5. Okay, after queen takes c5, okay, here you will see here that the objective, because with regards to objective and plan, on the other hand, is the demand of the position. I understand where you're coming from, sir. You want to capture the bishop because that was the objective. However, in every plan, in every objective, in every situation that you fix your eyes on how to continue, you have to have these little mini plans, okay, backup plans, or what we call plan B. Here is plan B. We cannot allow this knight between the two, although we want to capture the bishop. With regards to our objective, we cannot simply allow the knight to occupy. Oh, so now it is about the demand or requirement of the position. Okay? As much as we want to get rid of the bishop, but things change. All right, so now we have to capture the knight. Queen takes. And after queen takes, now she's happy here because she actually won a pawn on b2, bishop takes b2. So this is what happened. 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 7, and a very beautiful pawn structure and out of the French opening. She is a pawn up with the 2 bishop to boot. We see here that our opponent will be probably very happy at this point. However, not everything is what they seem in a chess game.
This is the way the game went.
This is the way the game went. And after RAB1, we notice that there's only one square available for the bishop.
C3.
C3. Okay, now, if our opponent has an advantage on pawn material, had the advantage of the bishop pair, again, material, or pores, a lot of you will probably lose your desire to continue the struggle. But chess, again, is not over until it's really over. We lost a pawn, yes, but what? With as a compensation for the missing pawn, what we have is we have now an outpost on c5, a very dangerous one because it cuts the enemy's connection of the king and the rook. That is very vital in actual communication. In an actual battle is very important. If you cut their communication, it will be a lot of problem. This is a problem. The reason is, in order for the rook to find the light of day, it needs to castle. Unfortunately, it's not allowed by the bishop there on c5. Okay?
So do you prefer that dark square bishop on c5 or d6? Because d6 it also cuts up the inside.
The good thing is, it's not needed on d6 because you have to spend a tempo. For example, the b file, which the bishop will probably exert influence, it's not needed because the other rook already controlled the b file. So at the expense of one pawn, we have a much more active situation. The rook had the open file. The bishop had the long diagonal. The knight is well posted. The bishop is bad. The rook is bad. Everybody in black's camp is bad except this bishop here. So with regards to material against activity, what we have here is dynamic against, what's the other one?
Static.
Static. Okay? Static advantage and dynamic advantage. We go with the dynamic because it produces initiative. Dynamic produces initiative. According to the middle game in chess by Ube and Kramer, if you've read that book, book 1 and book 2, a static against dynamic, go with dynamic. This is a dynamic approach for white against the static approach of black. So here, class, it's not yet over because it's still a battle. I mean, personally, I will probably go and defend black here, to be honest. I will nurture that one single pawn advantage and defend at all costs and hold on to it until my opponent run out of resources. My idea here is just topping it out. I play king d7, connect the rook, play bishop a6 if possible. For example, bishop a6 immediately. Then king d7. I thought it's still a playable. Now, after this pieces moves, bishop a6, king d7, the rook moves, he will have a problem on the queen side, but he will be able to neutralize the position. However, in a game 60 tournament, it's easier said than done. I mean, you cannot see all the continuation. Go ahead.
Yeah, the point is, I think you were talking strategically.
Mm-hmm.
The more times you play against the French, the more you say, I'm rubbing my hands. That light square bishop is going to be worthless because I'm a super duper anti-French player. But you see right away, you lost the pawn.
Yeah.
That bishop, as you said, you don't castle now.
Yeah.
You immediately activate that bishop with bishop
a6.
And it's not a piece of wood.
Mm-hmm. No, it starts exerting influence on the light square.
Right.
Immediately.
So not only do you have the pawn advantage,
Mm-hmm.
you just buttered up white's position.
Correct, but here is what a lot of players will probably miss. This bishop, no matter what happened in the game, as the game progresses, it will become a thorn in black's position. And that is the only advantage that we have, plus the b file temporary. None of them actually merit any point according to the computer. In the evaluation of computer, this is still good or better for black. In actual game, everything is different. So after RAB1, bishop C3, rook B3.
So
Okay.
you should play bishop A6.
He can. I capture and he capture. I get 2 pieces for a rook.
Oh, I see.
So we want allow our opponent to have the chance to be able to bring out that bishop with gain of tempo. And how to do that? Because this is coming, class. It's arriving. You have to prevent your opponent's active continuation. And the only way to achieve that is keep them busy defending instead of allowing them to be active. So bishop, rook b3 attacks the bishop. He can't play bishop a6. She can't play, I mean. So bishop a5 is played. And now, the absence of the bishop in this diagonal give this square to, next move. Look what happened. The transformation, we now have an outpost after outpost after outpost. The transformation of the position from 1 point deficit, 1 pawn, gives us 2 outposts with the bishop and the knight and an open pile, more than enough compensation for the missing soldier. Okay? Everybody got that? And now this is hard to see in your actual chess game.
What would the computer say about this position? Do you know?
It's 0.5, negative 0.5 for black.
For black. Why
For
you get a
black.
slight advantage?
What if you
Black has a slight advantage.
What if you bring rook to b1 and attack, sacrifice the rook?
That's one of the plans to generate counterplay on the B pile because that's all ours while the king is not yet castled. In other words, while the king is unsafe. Now here, after knight d4, we did not allow our opponent to play bishop a6. Or he can, I believe, but you see,
Try to defend that C
he has to defend his c pawn.
Yeah.
So
with the king.
he could defend with the king. Instead, she chose to, let's see with the king. How is it going to help her? Everybody will be stepping on each other's toes after rook ab1, and now bishop a6 is actually a blunder because rook a3 is, wins one of the bishop. So you see here the difficulty that black is encountering in this game. Now, you give your opponent much problem and much trouble to prevent her to do her own plans. You are directing the game. The initiative is actually on white side here. The attack on c6 is serious. It cannot be allowed to be taken. So whether she likes it or not, bishop d7 was played. Unfortunately, this gives us this is square for our rook. So one bad thing after another is showing up on the chessboard for our opponent. After bishop d7, rf b1 was played with the idea of, your idea, rook check,
D8 check.
and then we might be able to capture one of the pieces. Okay? So now this is a very clear example of how bad could a light square bishop on French could become, and this is one of them. Very clear example that what you need to achieve if you're white against French is just make their one light square bishop bad, and the whole game will be bad. It was Shegbert Tarash who said that in a position, if one piece is bad, the whole game is bad. Okay? Get that? You just need one bad piece from your opponent. Compared to us, how many of our pieces are good? All of them. Right? It's always an example for all of you when I showed my game that it's always a picture of harmony and coordination. I believe in the in the artistry of the chessboard that everybody needs to be working together as a team, not each one going on their own way, going astray, right? So here is a picture of harmony and coordination. Bishop d7, and you force your opponent to be in the negative on the receiving end here. After knight d4, bishop d7, rf b1, she has to play bishop c7. That prevents the check, and at the same time create an
Attack.
on the pawn on e5. Very good. And remember, this pawn on e5 was played by move 5 or 4. and since then it creates a wedge in the enemy position, preventing this bishop to see the light of day. The advantage of space can only be fulfilled if it constantly creates a trouble to your opponent. Otherwise, if your opponent can go around, right, that wedge, for example, on this scenario, bishop a6, then this pawn on e5 is just there as a statue, right? Nothing more. Here, it gives problem. It becomes a thorn on black's position. So how should you play here? Continues after bishop c7, class?
F4.
F4, very good. Bolstering the center, strengthening the position, rendering your opponent hopeless and helpless.
And also you can come back to F3.
F3, knight g5. We have a lot of plans in the position. Remember here, in your actual chess game, always find the lines that gives you constant play, continuous play. If you run out of idea, that means you have not been very careful in planning your continuation, okay? F4 here introduce other ideas. For example, later on, F5, knight F3, knight G5, G4, F5, and those so on and so forth. But the main thing is, it becomes a boa type of constrictor chess. Look here. Your opponent's pieces are forced to go back, right? And they have the bishop pair. How could you do something like this to the one who has the bishop pair? It's just possible. Study Nimzovich game. This is one of them.
Could black consider something crazy like G5 now?
G5 is playable, but
He has the pawn.
for example, if he played G5, very good point. If she played G5 here, do we have to do something about be affected by it, or what to do? We just go on with our attack, rook d7, and now what should she play here? That attack on bishop is serious because if it moves to a5 again, then this is pawn is and free, correct? That's one. If king d8, is the move, what's going to happen here? You take the a7 pawn, and it's just slowly torturing your opponent, and the picture of lack of coordination in his army is just pitiful to look at. Okay? So it's bad. The G5, although it's a good idea, it probably needs some refinement, timing.
Yeah.
Okay? So first of all, she needs to prevent that arrival of the bishop on the 7th rank, 7th heaven. So after RAB1, bishop c3, knight d4, f4. Instead, she has a different idea in mind. Instead of attacking the pawn on f4, she creates an attack on f6 with the same idea of yours, to destroy the center, just to keep the bishop, bring them out to the open, make their presence felt.
And these pawns were behaving like eunuchs, you know, like
Eunuchs?
the word is like sterilized dogs, you know, with nothing. They haven't been showing their presence.
True,
You
true.
have that advantage, so you want to use it in some way.
If you have the advantage of pawn, very good point, that you can always give it back in the form of attack, all right? So here, the best point of attack here is the center, the one that caused you the more pain. Attack them, get rid of them, right? So f6 was played. So in other words, this rook b7 cannot be prevented. Rook b7 attacks the bishop.
With king d8 forced.
Rook c8 was
King D-
played.
king-
Instead, she said, never mind the pawn on a7. I can always give it back because I have a pawn advantage. Give it back. I will start creating an attack on the center. All right. So RC8 was played. Rook takes a7. Now, white is actually introducing a new idea here, and that is, if one rook on the 7th rank is strong, two rooks on the 7th rank would render the game completely over if we can achieve this. Okay? This is done deal. So instead, that was the threat. Let's see how black reacted. After rook b7, rook c8, rook takes a7, she calculated that white doesn't have enough time because there's a threat on the center. The center collapsed. One of the bishop will probably see the light of day, dark square. F takes E5. Now here, to her surprise, she thought that, is this possible to capture, for example? Anybody?
I think so.
What about knight takes E6? We have rook E7 check. It's just one bad, it's just destruction, annihilation in the position, right? And so the E5 became poisonous. It can't be captured. And so she found a way to, instead, the rook is on A7, yeah? So here, instead, she spent a tempo attacking the rook first. To force that rook, to prevent the doubling of rook on the 7th pile, she spent a tempo. And after B7, only then she captured the pawn on E5. After bishop takes E5, what is the difference here? It doesn't change anything because knight takes E6 is still it's still there, right? Knight takes E6 is too strong. After bishop takes, this is what happened in the game. And we're probably running low on time here because rook E7 check, king D8 was forced. After rook takes E6, this is what happened. She played bishop F6. Now look, class. The rook is still on the corner. The other rook was forced into a defender. The bishop as well was forced as a defender of the E7 square. And after the obvious RB7, the position is just close to winning for white. I mean, this is the threat, bishop B6 check. Now, her only move in the position here after rook B7 is rook C7. Last trick. And looks like the obvious move, right? That is what I played, class. Don't worry. It's actually a blunder. All of us blundered in this position because look here, after bishop B4 check, and suddenly we find ourselves, what just happened? Right? For if bishop takes, then we lost the rook. All right? And so the lesson here is you have to be vigilant to the very end.
Can you go back?
Yeah, so chess is a very cruel game. I mean, you're on a stride, you're playing well, you have it all under control. You just miss one single nonsensical idea from your opponent, and you just tell them, why don't you just resign and save us both time and we can relax? And they don't want to resign. They persist on playing. This is the position.
Like if the
Bishop B6.
on A6, and then you play
Bishop D4,
to
D4 check.
so king.
Yeah, it can go king H8, king H1, for example.
So if bishop takes,
If bishop takes,
then rook takes.
rook takes, correct. But you see here, the recovery. And after rook D7, the game is far from over, actually. Right? And now, this will be an endgame that you should probably study under Ruben Pine's basic chess endgame. In this type of position, a split pawn, which is a passer, against a connected pawn, for me personally, I'm probably going to go with the connected pawn, I can defend this passer here, easy. Disconnected could be a problem, not to mention the king is on the back rank. With black to move, white to move, RC, RE3, and so on. I probably think that the game will be good for black. It's probably at least a draw. At least a draw or more. Rook C8 with a threat of mate. King G1. And it's about activity, Rook Ace2. And what we have here is black suddenly recover. And every time something like this tables turn, the one that has the advantage before lost their desire to continue the game and just play one bad move after the another. Correct? And this is what happens in a lot of chess games out there. Right? In chess tournament game, you have the position under control and you just miss one idea and you just lost the appetite to continue the game. It's a common sickness to most players. It's a disease. So, and how many points that we should won, so many games should we won that were wasted, thrown into the trash bin because of one careless move, careless whisper. Okay, let's go back here. This was the position. But that's what I played. Unfortunately for me, she missed this check. Because of the time trouble. We're both in time trouble. King D7 was played.
Oh, wow.
Rook takes C7. King takes. Okay, rook takes C6. King E5. And after A4, now it is this pawn who was a criminal. The past pawn's lust to expand, to become a problem. And after A5, her time ran out in a lost position actually. Okay, I hope that everybody enjoyed the lecture this morning. Any question? Power of an Outpost, part 2, this time with the bishop. Good game.